about where all the couples from Temptation Island Season 2 on Netflix are now. I talked about Kaylee and Summit and Sydney and Mikey and Xavier in my last video and shared more thoughts on Season 2 as a whole. So check out that video if you missed it. Especially when it comes to Sydney and Mikey, I think a lot of you guys are going to be interested hearing what happened with them just 4 days after they wrapped up filming. But now let's talk about Shyanne and Jack. So Jack, he now is rocking blonde hair. I guess he used to have blonde hair back in the day. I miss his brown hair he had on the show. I think it looks a lot better on him. But anyways, they are no longer together. So they decided to go to the island because Jack wanted to prove to Shyanne that he was committed to her and that he could be monogamous. But this experiment kind of showed that he struggled to be anything but that, because he literally hooked up with this girl and then not even 24 hours later hooks up with another girl, and not even within like a day or two of being at the island, he's talking about how this one girl, he thinks her coochie tastes like candy. And Shyanne, once she saw Jack acting like this in the bonfire, she decided to do what she pleased while she was at the Temptation Island house, and she just started hooking up with guys, and they're both having their ways at the house. In the final bonfire, Jack acknowledged that he knows what he did had to hurt Shyanne, but he feels like after 5 years that it's just best that they both go their separate ways. And I feel like a lot of relationships this season were just relationships that hit their expiration dates, but people didn't know how to get out of them. So many people just want to be like, well, I've already invested 5 years into this relationship. I can't just walk away now. But really, those years are already spent, and just staying another year doesn't save the previous ones. It's just costing you another year of being without your real potential partner and finding real happiness. And I think a lot of people just stay in relationships just because it's easier to be around what you know instead of the unknown. And that's what I kind of feel like this show is good for. It shows people, look, you can live this single life for 3 weeks and experience what it's like not having this person under your ass 24/7, and you can be happy without them. I mean, Shyanne struggled at first without Jack, but it seems like Jack, once he started getting away from Shyanne, he realized there's a whole world out there. And he tried to say in the Biofiles podcast that he was depressed the whole time that he was there and hated being there, and he ended up getting really drunk to deal with it, and that's why he blames a lot of his bad decisions on were because he was intoxicated the whole time he was there, and that's why he kept wanting to, take people to the little tent that they have where they get freaky, and why he just wanted to have sex the whole time. That one girl he took to the tent, she's like, Jack, no, you're being so bad, Jack, but she just kept going along with it. Apparently, Shyanne and Jack were a backup couple. They were a main couple that ended up backing out at the very last minute. So they had to call Jack and Shyanne last minute, and they had to rush to the airport and come down to Hawaii. And I'm sure they probably used them as a backup just because it seemed like Jack was quiet. And that's one thing. It seemed like the guys this season were really quiet, and that's one of the reasons why it wasn't as entertaining this season. But also because they were together for 5 years, and I'm sure they probably look for newer couples instead of more established couples, because they probably think they have a greater chance of them cheating on each other. But here is one of the couples that have been together the longest, and Jack was one of the first to fold. And then we have Scarlett and Colt. And what I find interesting about this couple is when they left the island, they decided to go their separate ways, but now they're back together. So Cole was eager to go back to San Diego, back home with Scarlett, but she decided that she wanted to leave Temptation Island all by herself. Majority of the season with this couple was Scarlett just complaining about the fact that Cole is not really a deep intellectual person, and she's one of those people that likes to dig deep. She's all about energies and stuff like that, and Cole kind of just thinks all that stuff's weird. He's not into all that stuff, so they're completely different, and that's such a big important thing to her that she kind of feels like Cole's not the one for her. And I kind of figured that they were probably best going their separate ways, because she's like, well, my ex lit my soul on fire, and she knew her ex was like her soulmate, and then she gets with Cole and she doesn't feel that fire with Cole. And yeah, you're not gonna feel that fire with every partner, but you should feel some kind of fire with your partner and want to go crazy and be absolutely obsessed with them. But that's not how Scarlett is with Cole, so I'm like, okay, he's definitely not the one for her. But she is convinced now, after Temptation Island, after they had some time apart, she feels like they've grown back together stronger than ever. Scarlett said that her and Bradley had a really close friendship while they were living in the house together, and Bradley was actually pretty heartbroken when she didn't choose him at the end, but she decided to eventually give Cole another chance, and I hope things work out for them. You know, now that I think about it, another thing that I really liked about last season is not only did I feel like there were some memorable cast members, but there's some very memorable singles from last season. We had Kay, we had that one girl that hooked up with Grant that Grant was talking to. There's like 3 or 4 singles that were very memorable in my opinion, that I was very interested in keeping up with after this season. But in my opinion, the only memorable singles from this season was Xavier, and then we have Bradley, but I feel like we didn't really get to know Bradley that much like that. I feel like it was just primarily focused on Xavier out of all the singles. And then we had that one guy who was sleeping with, what was it, Scarlett? Or no, not Scarlett, but the other girl. But yeah, I just feel like we didn't get to know a lot of the singles very well this season, and didn't get to see their sides, and they just weren't very memorable. Or it was Natalie from last season who was talking to Grant. We had Natalie, we had Kay, and then there's several of the singles from the girls' house that I still follow on Instagram to this day that I found interesting. But there's no cast members from this season that I just really were like, oh my god, I gotta go follow them right now. I mean, I went and checked out like Jack's pages. I checked out all their pages, but I just didn't find any of them interesting enough to follow like I was with some of the cast members from the last season. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There's one more thing that I wanted to say. What was it? I can't remember, but I don't know. And I felt bad for Cole. Like, does Cole have Tourette's? And I'm sorry if this sounds mean saying this, but I felt so bad for Cole because he wasn't a man with a lot of words, but he had more facial expressions and tics going on in his face than words coming out of his mouth. And you could tell he was just having a rough experience at the island altogether, and he was just really going through it in his mind. Like, Jack acted like he was depressed and drinking the whole time. Yes, he was drinking, but he didn't seem that down. But Cole definitely seemed down the whole time, and like he did not want to be there. But he was like twitching so much with his eyes and his face. I felt so bad for him this season. And I know, like, dealing with these stressful interviews and stressful situations where you're watching your girl hang out with other men and be all over other men, that has to be hard, and I'm sure that was just triggering his tics even more. But that's it for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys thought about this season in the comments below, and like I said, check out my other video in case you missed it, where I cover the rest of the couples that I did not cover in this video. But let me know what you guys think, and thank you so much for watching.